Hello and welcome to another episode of Magicians Only. Are you a magician? Should you be listening to this? Should you be watching this? It's okay. It's all right. I won't tell anyone. If you love magic, if you're interested, if you have any kind of interest in magic, if you love the characters that are involved in the world of magic, or if you're just bored and have nothing to do, this is the perfect podcast for you. Hosted by yours truly, Steve Valentine. And this is, of course, sponsored, in case you didn't know, it's sponsored by Magic on the Go, which is one of my favorite projects of my entire life. It is an online global magic school. It works off of your phone. You can look up magic. You can learn on your computer, on your phone, on your tablet. No matter where you are, as long as you got internet, you can learn magic. And you can, not only that, I use it to remind myself sometimes because I put all my routines on there. So sometimes I'll forget and I'll have to look at the phone and remind myself of the routine. I'll play it sometimes while I'm driving and listen to it. But it's a fantastic resource. It's a tool. It's more than just a course. You know, there are a lot of courses out there that will teach you 10 tricks. And certainly we have videos that can teach you like 6 card tricks and a little card act. Fine. But this is a resource, and it teaches you so much, you know, which you can learn. It's so much fun to watch. I have fun with all my videos, and but you'll learn how to do magic in all different kinds of environments. But it's the gift that keeps on giving, because that's the difference. So go check it out, Magic on the Go at magiconthego.com. Let's get to today's episode, which is part 3 of my amazing interview with Nick Lewin. There's so much more coming that's going to blow your mind. Vegas, Carradine stories. I mean, this has been an incredible conversation. We're going to talk more about how Nick opens and closes a show, about his Las Vegas story, just so much. Billy McComb, you name it, it's all here. I hope you enjoy it. Let's start right now with part 3 of Nick Lewin.
First of all, I came to a point in my work at the castle where I didn't, what's the word? Well, I was doing close-up, I was doing stand-up, and people would watch you. This was the first distinction. And people went, oh, can you do a little close-up before and then a little show afterwards? I did that many times. Then one day I just went, you got to specialize. You got to know what you're doing here. And the money was in the stand-up. So I went with that, because I sometimes regret that, because sleight of hand's my true love. I did an illusion show. I had 15 major illusions, and I never knew how any of them worked. I just...
Nowadays, they put illusion shows on cruise ships, and the dancers learn how to do them, and the magicians just come in and point.
That's right. Well, that's kind of what, because back in the 80s, when the corporate market was really extreme, that was a big deal. But it's...
I think that's a really important point. What are you? Who are you? Specialize, and then you can push and focus, right?
Well, and it's like, I see business cards for magicians. I know it's a cliche to say this, but it's true. And, television, kids' parties, speaker, they'll have about 10 things listed on the card, which is just not work. They're not going, oh, wow, look how multi-talented this guy is. Not that they're paying money. They're going to want to, do I want a guy who did a kids' show that day for my corporate group? So, I always tell people, it's cheap enough now. Get specific cards for specific kind of work. House parties, which are getting very big, and whatever it is,
that's a really good idea. That's a good idea.
Yeah,
and you focus and you're an expert on that field.
What really took me time, so I just said no, not going to do any more close-up prior to the show, or actually any close-up, because it was, and I was nominated. I was nominated to close-up the 2 years I really worked there on it, and it was good magic, and I loved it. But I went the other direction. And then I made another decision at a certain point. I just said, well, okay, I'm not going to work the castle anymore. There used to be a prestige to it. Yes. And I said, nah, I want to be the magician who says, oh, no, I don't work the magic castle. And had a little bit of power going to it, no question.
Sure.
And I played that out, and I did.
That's
exactly.
What's funny, Nick, is that was how I approached my acting career when I first came to LA. I was doing a lot of under 5s, right? 5 lines and under in things like Married with Children and Men Behaving Badly and all of these shows. The waiter who comes in with the drink, or the person who says he went that way, or or just and it was good to learn how the set worked. But then I was like, no, I'm not going to do that anymore. And I remember my agent was like, but you're really good at it. It's very hard to find actors that can do 3 lines well. And I'm like, yeah, but I'm guest stars. I'm only going to start at a guest star. And obviously, if a series regular comes and I want that, and they were like, okay, all right, fine. And then I started doing all the guest stars. And then there came a point where I said, like, well, I don't want to do guest stars anymore. I want to be either recurring characters or series regulars, and just forever, just kind of pushing the goalpost, the finish line, just a little further away. As I've done this, and now I'm here, and now I want to go to this. And it was a gradual growth. It was also a time which doesn't exist anymore when you came to LA, the more credits you got, the more exposure you received, and that was considered valuable by the networks and the film companies. And then your rate to what you would actually charge was, what do they call that? That wasn't your rate. It was just the amount you charged, right, was commensurate with the amount of experience that you had. And so, you knew that that's what he worked for. And then it changed, and it became just kind of like, you're lucky to have a gig, it pays scale. This is the difference. But at that time, you actually felt like you had a career to grow.
That's right. Well, I took the TV work, happy to do it, loved the residuals. And in those days, if you were a technical advisor, I did an episode of Amazing Stories, Spielberg's TV show. Yeah. And they had Sid Caesar. You're familiar with Sid Caesar.
Yeah.
And he was playing an old down at the heel magician, and everything was going wrong, and eventually gets a magic deck of cards. And they were using CGI, which was very, very unusual in TV at that time. Spielberg spent a fortune on it.
Yeah.
And
really?
It was wonderful to see the way he approached that character. So, and I went up, first of all, they said, well, we want him to like Producer Kane. Oh, God. How many times have I heard that? So we went up to Sid's house in the Hollywood Hills. Had amazing paintings. It was like an art gallery. A lot of money on the wall. And he said, oh, well, that looks easy. He did it, boom. Just, cut his hand out to here. And
took an eye out.
Like, classic Walsh Kane. And then, so they all put a Band-Aid. So the entire episode, he had a big Band-Aid down his hand. I said, that's why I told you we don't want to do the Kane thing. But it was very interesting. He had a sense of timing. And it was a first-time TV director, Donald Petrie from the Petrie family.
I worked with him, years later.
Oh, okay. Well, he was really totally upset because Sid kept slowing down. And he said, well, no, they'd have to cut dialogue. And, and he was just absolutely paranoid about, it's not going to work. The writers. And then when you watch it, oh, my God. That's timing. He looked like exactly what he was. I mean, it was an amazing performance. And I loved seeing it from first right through till the end,
Did Sid Caesar, when you were watching him work on the character, did he impart any wisdom kind of like in how he was approaching it? Or you just kind of watched?
No, he was very internally focused on it. And the only thing I can say is he kept saying, no, this character, he's not a character who moves quickly. He's thinking things through,
Smart.
So I learned a lot doing that. And the good part in those days, if you were technical advisor and you had an on-screen part, which I did in Amazing Stories, we
have to go check that out now.
The fees, your advisory fees, all went on residuals. So that was a biggie.
That's great. I think we have to all go now watch this. You don't remember we'll find it. Sid Caesar episode of Amazing Stories.
They've got it on YouTube, I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
They've got my Alfred Hitchcock. Did you ever see the Alfred Hitchcock I did?
Alfred Hitchcock Presents?
Well, that was Toronto. It was the coldest I've ever been. We shot in January. And it was a dear friend of mine, Michael Sloan, was the writer-producer. I did Kung Fu for him and a bunch of other shows, but he brought me up. And this was a big role. He wrote the whole thing for me. So I'm pretty much never off the screen. And I'm a magician. My niece gets kidnapped as blackmail. all in the end.
You know what we need to do? We need to have like a screening night of all the Nick Lewin magic.
That would be fun.
That would be great.
And it was, it was such fun to do. And he was very, very kind. So I liked all the TV stuff. And that one, another one, I didn't get as much money on that one by any means. I did the Kung Fu, The Legend Continues.
Yeah.
The original, I hasten to add.
But Carradine was still in it, right?
Sorry?
Was Carradine in that one? The Legend Continued?
Yes. Yeah. Don't get me started on Carradine stories.
Well, let me just preempt that with, it's a very interesting thing when you move to LA, isn't it? Because people that you know of and you've seen as legends or celebrities suddenly become very real people. And they're just as, if not more, they're just as human as anyone else. And they got all the foibles and they're struggling in their careers like everybody else is, and they want to move. I'll never forget. So I met two things, right? I met Carradine at an audition for a show that I ended up getting for Sci-Fi Network, which was a game show that I hosted. But it's a lot like The Traitors, actually. It was called The State of Panic, and it was very dark and weird. And Carradine would have been great as the host. Anyway, but I remember going in to read and to audition for this thing, and the people that were in that room auditioning to host a game show on a competition series, reality show on Sci-Fi, Carradine was one of them. And it was this moment of, you just realize that everyone just goes from job to job. It's so human. And Patrick
Cullerton.
Patrick Cullerton was very close with Carradine and would always tell me like insane stories where they'd actually get into fistfights. Is that what happened to you?
No. Okay. No, Patrick. Well, if you've got time, I'll tell you one quick story.
Yeah, we've got time.
Kung Fu, The Legend Continues. Robert, I'm trying to remember his name, but one of the chief characters in it had been a Vernon student. Robert, come to me. He was a big movie star in his day, and he was in The Equalizer, which was also Michael Sloan's show.
Right, okay.
So I went in because he wanted to do Twisting the Aces without any cuts. He wanted it to be a pure piece of magic. That was his little tribute. And except he got very nervous about the whole thing. So I came in a few days early to deal with him. I went out the first night with him and Michael, who was executive producer, and written the thing. And we went out, we had a nice meal. We had a few drinks, maybe too many. We came back to the Intercontinental Hotel. We were downstairs in the bar. David Carradine walked in. Whoa. He was so out of it. It was like he was walking in a foreign land. Then he came and sat down, and Michael said, "This is Nick. He's my dear friend. He's going to be doing the advisory, and he's playing a part." And he just looked at me, Carradine, and said, "You are?" "Well, we're using Patrick Cullerton." And Mike said, "Well, I don't know, because Nick's very good, believe me." Carradine just looked at me with hatred, said, "Yeah." And he said, "Well, show me something." So I have one trick, which every magician should, bit of advice. Have one card trick that is absolutely killer, that shows everything you can do. So I did that for David. He said, "Yes, but that's a trick deck." And he picked it up, and it was a real deck. I said, "That's not a trick deck. That's why you have me here. I'm very good at what I do." He's not friendly. That was the biggest mistake. I should have kept him an enemy, because he kind of looked and said, "Well, I might let you do some hand shots for me." And I looked at his hands. They looked like the hands of an 80-year-old man. I mean, there were burns on it. I said, "Oh," he said, "Oh, but the ring." And he took off the big jade ring, and he put the ring on my finger. Said, "Yeah, that'll work. That'll be good." So I said, "Okay." And I'm sort of trying to get it off, and it's kind of stuck on my finger. So I've got a drunken David Carradine over here who's looking, and I said, "What?" He didn't do that. And he had my finger. He put it in his mouth. So I'm sitting there like this with my finger in David Carradine's mouth, and I tried to take it out, and the teeth went in. And so anyhow, in the end, he said, "Well, okay, if you are here, you're here, but I'm going to find out everything there is to know about you." I said, "Okay, well, you can start with the fact my dad was in the Navy." And so about 4 a.m, I got a call from in the hotel. I'm fast asleep. Carradine's, "Yeah, son of a Navy man," kind of a thing. And he used to go all night. So that when the first day we were in the studio, we were actually shooting, and he was the executive producer on it too. And he would be drunk in the morning from the night before. And I remember once on the set, his script girl was there, and she took a sip from his water bottle, accidentally threw down. And she just, whoa, was just, they had to stop filming and everything. Well, it's pure alcohol. He was
Classic.
he would pop up with that all day.
Classic Hollywood.
Love of setting fire. Every time he lit a cigarette, which was often, he would stop in the middle of a take, and they were really pushed for time on that show. They were doing an hour show in the same time that they'd taken to film the half-hour Hitchcock. So he would, in the middle of, I need a cigarette, and they would just have to stop. And at other times, he said, I'm tired, I need to sleep. And his big claim to fame at that point was the fact that he could sleep anywhere, on top of a piano or staircase. He could just go straight to sleep. I think other people call it collapsing. But
Passing out. We call it passing out.
Then all these, I said, I've got to get a warmer, I got to get just more into this. I said, give me some cash. And I went to the Magic Store in Toronto. What was it?
Browser's Den. It was.
That was it.
Yeah.
Browser's Den. And I picked up flash wool, flash string, and more flash paper. So the next time I'm with David, I said, David, I said, I know you use, here, I've got some more for, that's great. And he was using full sheets of flash paper. And you go, I smell burning. And he would actually burn his fingers. And he had no idea. He did not notice any of these things. So it was very extraordinary. So I said, well, have you ever tried flash wool? No. Flash wool? What's that? I said, I happen to have a little here. And he loved it. And, I did that through. Then the next day, I said, it occurred to me, do you have any flash string? He said, what's that? I said, well, I'll show you. And I pulled the string. I said, you can put that there. And if you put the cotton, the wool there, it burns up like a fuse and explodes. And he said, no. He said, it is a fuse. Then he loved me. He would stop in the middle of scenes. I said, Nick, what was the name of that magician? And they're all going crazy trying to get this show done on.
This is so. I mean, these are the great Hollywood stories.
To hang with me and drink. I'm a vodka guy. He was a vodka guy, and I had to be very careful.
I feel like we have less of those stories now, just because everyone's so careful in social media. When he put his finger in your mouth, I mean, that would have been on YouTube and social media in a nanosecond. You know what I mean? That's one of those moments. But I love that kind of. That's the part of Hollywood that I love, and I do miss it a little. I worked with Charlie Sheen, who I love, and he's such a lovely guy. But everyone's got these crazy stories about working with various celebrities. That putting the finger in the mouth, that's a really good one.
That was up there, I have to say, but got it done. And they were fun gigs, and I did a lot of ship work in between, just to go back to the act a little, which is very much like corporate work. I always tell people a ship show, and I was working big rooms. Some of these were 3,000 seat theaters, and that's a lot of people. It really is. And I was breaking a bit of thread. Okay, so I was still doing, everything was tiny, and I didn't really, the only time I used the screen was when I was doing the thread, and I had that direct close-up on the hands on the wall. And I never liked working with too many monitors around, or, I forget what they call it.
We have a lot of video monitors and iMags and stuff like that. Sometimes
iMag, that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, sometimes it's good, but there are shows I work with the illusionists, and they're on all the time. Some people think they're on too much. I think there's moments where you can sell, but then you read about magicians like Jack Ladair, who would do these giant 2,000 seat Glasgow Empire type theaters and do carded cigarette and kill. So it's doable. You know that it's absolutely a doable thing. Just to go back to the opening trick, by the way, what I loved about what you said is you need to have the eye contact with the audience. Who said that to Glenn Hayward If you remember Glenn
Glenn
Hayward.
Hayward, I heard that from Glenn too.
Yeah, right. Because that's why he opened with 6-card repeat, because he didn't have to look at the cards. And I heard that from Glenn Hayward. And I think it's brilliant because it's not about the trick, it's about you, right? And that, but closing a show, I think, is the hardest thing. Like, knowing the trick has to be amazing, but it can't be so amazing that they're talking about it while you're trying to get your ovation, right? It's this weird balance.
Well, I would bring the fingerings in and make it look like it was the finish of the show, which got the reaction. Then this is when I was doing the formal show, if I was doing like a lots of money corporate show. And then I would come back and I would do the bottles, which is a great trick. I mean, it doesn't get all the respect back to deserves, because most people want to put those bottles down so carefully because they know what they cost coming from Japan. You have to put that bottle down with then the audience thinks it's, and in routine, everyone took it. I mean, Denny Haynes and we got together once. There was a little flare going on I think Magic Cafe or something, so I probably missed it. But people were saying, well, who does the best bottle routine? And I got quite a few people. Denny got a lot of people. When we got together, we just laughed because we both do Ken Brooks routine with like minimal changes.
Did Paul Daniels also do Ken Brooks? Probably, right? He probably did Ken Brooks routine.
He added a lot of bottles when I saw him do it. You don't need that many bottles. Ken used to say, if you can't get the effect, if you can't get them with 9 bottles, don't do the trick. But you don't need to go beyond. And it's very true. His routine is wonderful because you actually see everything. That was the joy to Ken, where you place those bottles after you've produced them. I've seen so many magicians produce them. Then the whole front of their table is like a bottle curtain or something. And they're busily doing things behind it and only they can see it.
Sure. Yeah. But it's interesting because there's a guy who did them here, and I think he got a set of bottles from AliExpress, and he does the bottles, and then as he moves his table, they all go clanging down onto the ground, and you're just like, anyway, it's one of those things that wouldn't have happened with rehearsal. Just to go back to, all right, so you do the rings because you want to make it feel like it's a closer, but then there's something else that you do to bring it back to you.
One, I'm out there. Then I would come back up and I did the bottles. I do it real fast. I don't think it's a trick you should do slowly because you don't want to give them too much time to think about it. You want lots of flash action, bang. And when I finish it, I have and the table I have is good. It's a table, but it's got a little piece at the back, a little shelf really. But it looks like it's just pretty thin, but it's fitted to the bottles and the tubes. So when you finish the show, you can put them down. Nobody knows if some are going inside another bottle or a tube or whatever it is. I could break that table down and get those bottles in the back and safe and the glasses in a matter of a minute. So that was good. So but the ending, I would finish the show, the bottles, good night, cheers. And then I had a Union Jack that fell down at the front of the table. And I had the James Bond theme playing. And when I'd start to walk forward, I said, no, wait a minute. I'm going to do one more. And then I would do the Torn Restored newspaper. I do a slow motion version of it that's pretty cool. And it gives them, the Anderson newspaper.
You brought it really into, so essentially what I'm seeing is it's big, it's expansive, it's the rings.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot of audience participation and it's powerful. Then it's super fast with the bottles, which is your fake closer, really. And then it's like, this encore, this false encore kind of thing, but then bringing it back again, what we were talking about, bringing it back to you and away from the flash of everything else. I can see how that rhythm would close a show.
Yeah, it's slow, but the nice part with the Elmsley is that they see it in slow motion because they really see a quarter page go to, boom, boom, and it gives them time to register. The Anderson is a great look and everything, but it's a flash, Ken always used to talk about not doing a trick. I said, magicians want to do tricks that last 5 minutes and then the finale lasts 30 seconds. I hadn't thought about that, and it's true. So that's why I say something in, keep putting something in to keep the journey interesting.
I love that. You know, it's funny you mentioned Elmsley. Everyone does the flash newspaper. Everyone just loves that. Boom, it's restored. And again, in some ways, that's porn star magic. It's just, you know, it's splurging all over the audience and leaving the stage. Whereas to do it slowly is something I mean, I think I read the Elmsley one. Wasn't that in Routine Manipulation? I feel like
it's in his book.
It's in the Elmsley books, yeah.
Elmsley, one of my heroes. When I was in Vegas, I got to meet him. He came in to do a convention for Gino Minari. It was great. I mean, I got to talk to him, and he saw the show. I said, well, gosh, I'm going to be doing your newspaper tear. And I said, oh, good. I love to see it. And afterwards, he said, that's the best I've seen. He said, because when you do it, because it's clean tears. I mean, you know, I have those creases, and it implodes into two pieces, which looks good. None of this, you know.
You use that little rotating device that perforates the paper in order to get those clean tears? I
just did a really, really fine edge on it. But I did it, and afterwards he said, I never thought the slow motion thing. He said, I only ever came up with this routine because I wanted it to look sloppy, and I wanted it to look like different bits there, you know, and I wanted it to, that was his goal in doing it. He didn't want to do a neat tear or anything like that. But that's a magician I'd like to talk to for a little longer.
Right. I think there's this thing in AI right now where did you hear about the Parkinson thing, the Michael Parkinson thing? Yeah. So this is with the permission of his son and the estate, but they basically started a Michael Parkinson AI podcast. So the AI has been trained on Michael Parkinson and now has interviews guests on the podcast. And it sounds
we wonder
like
why actors are thinking of going taking strikes and wanting to get you.
This is why it's all over. It's very good. I feel like if we were to take, it would be great if we could take maybe a magician who's created a lot of work and we could feed that into AI and then have a conversation with that magician. So say Devant, right? Masculine and Devant. Let's feed all of their books in AI and then have a conversation with Devant or take the Tarbell course and talk to Tarbell, because if
I know exactly what you said, but you're not actually talking to them. And that's the intrinsic problem, because people will believe they are talking with them. They will take, AI is certainly far from perfect. And my daughter's a lecturer at UCI, and she teaches writing for, one of the things she does, writing for people from China and all the places. You know? And they have no concept of AI being wrong. They will do AI written entire article. You can just put it in and then deliver it and want to get, and they can tell within minutes, you know, they just look there, oh God.
I have a friend of mine who's like tired of receiving emails from magicians. By the way, this is maybe something to think about as an artist, is a lot of people are using AI to design their websites and to do their emails. But, you know, you can kind of tell when AI has written an email or has designed a website. There's just something about it. I have a friend of mine now, she will not give an email the time of day. She's like, if the person sending me a request for work can't be bothered to actually write the email, I'm not going to respond to it.
Absolutely.
And it's there's definitely a resistance. It's going to be very interesting to see what happens over the next 2 days, because it's growing so fast.
Well, everything appears to be falling to bits. Well, you know, you're in the 51st state.
Yeah, I am. This is the 51st state, and the taxes are killing me.
One of my first, I'll bet they are. One of the first, come to Texas. It's a haven for income tax.
Is it?
Austin is such a great city.
I'm on my way.
Boys. And a lot of filming going on. So that's a sign. That's a plea. Just to, we're getting a nice little magic community in Austin. It's kind of an outlaw one. It's kind of an interesting one.
Who's there right now? It's obviously there's you. Who else is there? I know Wes Barker comes up there occasionally.
Plants, Ray Anderson, of course, Mark Holstein, There's
Good crew.
just very good people. I mean, and it's nice, and the taxes are good. You'll like the taxes.
And the good news is if you do the bullet catch, you can borrow a gun from the audience. I mean, that's always...
I like that. Yeah, I had to, if I may share one more story. We were talking about Fogel. And one time when he stayed with us, he was doing his bullet catch. And it was a masterpiece because actually he had 6 plates. No, it must be 5. 5 plates up, and he would stand underneath one of them, through down to here. You saw them all up there. And he had 5 guns, rifles with bullets. And one person was to shoot at him straight in the heart. The others were to shoot at the plates. Now, that's pretty dramatic right there. Yeah. Here's where it gets good. There's a lesson here, folks. Listen carefully.
It's a lesson, but yeah.
Worked for me in different forms. And then Morris would be standing there, crouched down. The drama was building. He'd be, wait! It occurs to me that in just a few moments, I may be lying dead or dying on the stage, unable to hear your applause. Would it be too much to ask to hear that applause now? Because the place would go crazy. And then before it went down, he would say, right, if that was your applause for a gallant loser, may I assume that your applause, should I succeed in this, will be twice as good as I... And they do it. That was great, because there's plates. I mean, I don't know how dangerous the thing was. Not like I'd do it, but he was there and he staggered around the bullet. I've got a few routines he gave me that really aren't published anywhere. So I don't think I can put it out, but he's got
I'd love to talk to you about those some other time. I would love to discuss his material. I've got his book, the book that was published about his work. And I just love someone who can present mentalism well. Is this such a rare thing, isn't it?
It is. Well, I mean, I grew up with Chan Canaster on TV. David Nixon, of course, was a biggie, and Basil Brush. But there was a nice group of people in England. I mean, I think we had some good TV performers.
I think we did too.
I mean,
I was a kid when Nixon died, and I remember crying my eyes out. And to think it was like I'd lost a grandparent, and to think that was the impact that he had on me at the time. So let's close out by discussing, because this is unbelievable. We've been talking for 2 hours, Nick. This is...
Oh, okay. It's a short one. I hope I've said some things that are useful.
There's so much. I think people are going to have to sit with their notepads and just,
Well, I'm going to leave you with one thought that having done this show, different characters, there was Nick Cosmos. I was a quantum magician in a spacesuit. I've done it all. And then I realized I wanted to get back to me, and music was not going to anchor the act for me. And then I think I spent the next 35 years trying to look as though I'm doing nothing on stage. I'm trying not to look like I'm projecting or talking to... I keep it as conversational. I don't steal anything. If I need a prop, my hand goes in the pocket for some reason. Whatever it is. So I've really just been trying to eliminate anything other than just being there.
You're shaving, right? It's all about... That's what they said. Art. The secret to art is editing, and you're shaving as you go. Now, a lot of the routines that you talked about are routines that you publish on your site, right?
Yes, we have
NickLewinMagic.com, is that right?
No, it's Lewin Enterprises.
Lewin, Lewin, LewinEnterprises.com.
That's it.
And that's where you sell your professional routines, which...
Yeah, and I've got them. Yeah. They're all there. I'm so proud. It's like you're doing what you're doing. We've got to really be more careful about the way that magic is preserved. And we have to be careful not to forget the people who performed it.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot that's being lost. There's so much that's being lost, and I keep finding great. I just found something called Sick Transit that was in a Bruce Elliott magazine, but it's a way of like holding a glass, springing a deck of cards into the air, and catching a card in the glass that's the chosen card. No gimmicks. A card can be signed. Like, it's amazing, and we've almost lost it. Now it's on Magic on the Go, thank God. So on LewinEnterprises.com, you've got the color changing silks, right? You sell the whole routine.
I've got 91 items.
91 items. Yep.
All kinds of stuff. Really wanted to put all the Ken Brooke routines down because none of those, that's the only video of Ken, really, was the Harry Stanley stuff. So I tried to do, in fact, I'm just going to be putting out his coins through table. He had a wonderful coins through table, and I learned it from him. It was just great. And it was a little Slidini, a little Di Vernon, but we're just putting this out with Bitcoins. What? Doesn't that look nicer than an old $half? I mean, it shines. You know, if you bring out, people always say, you can't use newspapers anymore. You can't do this. Well, you know what? Time is coming up when people don't carry any change.
Absolutely. And they don't recognize what $half. I go into a bank and ask for $half, and no one knows what it is.
And that was for my, one of the pieces I have is for table to table. When you come out with, I come up with 6, I say, wow, I just got this tip on the last table. I guess Bitcoins are down today. Whatever. So I come up with some very funny stuff with it. But I mean, it's just, what is it? It's just something different. And yet, I'm going to put it with Ken Brooke's routine because Ken has an ending on it that is fabulous. And I've converted it to Bitcoin and gold, and it's good. You're working on the egg bag, right?
Yeah, I'm doing a lot of stuff on the egg bag right now. I've got...
Okay, what you need to do now, I don't know if it's the same in Canada. I've just got out my egg bag again because I want to get a little safe, and go through the whole thing, open it up and take the egg out. Because eggs, it's just, they're obsessed in this country with the cost of eggs.
The cost of eggs. I know. It's like...
I know. They don't care about anything else. That, I think, it's going to make me do the egg bag.
Yeah, it's all about the eggs. And I haven't discussed Ken Brooke's routine. I knew Pete Byro quite well, so, we talked about it a lot. I haven't discussed his routine on there, but because he's got some nice handling moments, and it's a trick that I could never play when I was younger. I could never make it work for me, but I saw people kill with it. So I decided this is something I need to investigate, which is why I went deep into the history of it, the routines of it, kind of the variations. And finally, I have my own routine now. So it took a lot of time and investigation, but everything except the finale to my egg bag, everything's online. Yeah, it's all on Magic on the Go. I keep finding new stuff all the time.
Well, it's a wonderful thing you're doing. It really is.
Thank you.
They always talk about standing of the shoulders of the one who... Well, some people now don't know what shoulders to stand on. What fun I've had talking with you. Just 2 South End boys.
2 South End boys. Next time we do a talk. So let me just say, huge thanks to Nick Lewin at LEWINenterprises.com. Check out his stuff. It's been absolutely amazing. We could talk for literally hours. There's so much. Listen, if you know someone in the business has been around a bit and has experience, talk to them. No matter what business you're in. Doesn't matter whether you're in magic, in comedy, in finance. Talk to people. Get their experience. Don't think that you can learn everything from scratch, because as Nick and I both said, there are people that we wished that we had talked to and asked questions of back in the day. So take advantage of that. It's the best advice that I can give anyone listening to this podcast. Nick, you've been amazing. Love to the missus. Thank you so much.